welcome to the stage Gyi Tsakalakis from AttorneySync.
All right, we're ready. Here we go. So be where clients are looking, leveraging local online legal marketing for your law firm. In case you're in the wrong spot, this is your last chance to leave. Thank you all for coming. We're going to talk about online legal marketing in a local context. We're going to talk about some ethics issues that come up, but really we're going to focus on some of these more advanced strategies on a very local level. So if you're a consumer-facing law practice, personal injury, bankruptcy, criminal defense, and you serve a local client base, this is the place to be. That's me, Gyi Tsakalakis, founded AttorneySync. I'm a very proud contributor at the Clio blog, Lawyerist, Attorney at Work, and Avo's Lawyeronomics blog. So if you have other questions about some of the things we talk about here, those are good places to go. You can also go to my site. We do weekly tips and whatnot that you can sign up for, get by email. I'll also be in the Q&A, so I tend to go a little fast through things. So I'm going to try to leave time for questions, but if we don't, I'll be up in the Q&A room after. So let's dive right in. We're going to start with some conceptual things. So lawyers always tell me the internet, search engines, social media, they don't work for marketing a law practice. Now, I know people here at Clio, you guys are all well beyond this because you're on the more sophisticated end, but the thing is that, no, they don't work if you do stuff like this, right? So not to pick on this particular lawyer, but we see this all the time. And so it's not like Twitter's broken, right? Search engines aren't broken. The internet isn't broken. There's plenty of people that are going out and using internet communication technologies to market their practices. But the problem is how do we, the devil's in the details, how do we actually put this stuff to work? And we'll talk about that. But conceptually, I want you to start thinking about this question, right? So you guys are all very smart. So how do people find and hire lawyers today? You can just shout out answers. Word of mouth. Okay. So this is good. There's a study that this firm does every year, Moses and Ruth. I have the link. The links to the presentation are all in here, and you can get them from me. So you don't have to vigorously write down URLs. But the thing is that we know that people, word of mouth, you go to people you know, that's the number one way. Even today, with all this other technology, web stuff, that's what people do. You can see certainly that people do go to the internet, and then there's a bunch of other ways. But as we go through this, I want you to think about it through that frame of reference, that reputation, despite what a lot of people will tell you, reputation and relationships still really matter, but the web gives you a lot of power and access to be able to demonstrate that reputation and to spread that word of mouth. And so that's what we're going to talk about. I think one interesting thing did come out of the study. Younger people shouldn't be a surprise. They don't know as many lawyers. Maybe it's a trend towards using the internet. But these are two interesting kind of caveats. But I think it's really important to frame this whole conversation through the lens of people still hire lawyers, still hire professional service providers, especially when we're talking about local legal services consumers, through people they know and trust. So from that same survey, Google Consumer Surveys, if you're ever looking for a survey tool, Google Consumer Surveys is great, fairly affordable. But one of the things it allows you to do is to group responses through different kind of tagging. And so if you look at all of the responses that came from under the relationship, it starts to become very obvious. People go to their friends, they go to their parents, they go to employers. And so, again, it's not that the point here isn't to say, give up on all that stuff and try to rank number one for a keyword at all. It's how do we, meet more of these people, get in front of those people in a medium that we haven't been able to do before. And then I think it's also important to remember that clients do care about other things that they're going to be able to find on the internet. In fact, there's an expectation now that if you get a word of mouth referral, if your friend says, hey, you got to talk to this guy or this woman, that they want to go look information about you up and they expect it, right? It's not that you can just say, oh, well, I'm just going to be a word of mouth practice, because you're not going to know how many people decided not to call you because they couldn't find information about you. They couldn't find your previous clients singing your praises. And we'll get into, I know there's a lot of ethics stuff that goes into this with what you can actually encourage people to do, but I think it's really important for you to recognize that your potential clients are looking for information for you online, and they expect that. It's not an option. It's not, oh, I'm just going to be pure word of mouth, because they're going online, and if they're not persuaded by what they see, oftentimes they're going to choose somebody else or get another referral. So this is what's really changing, right? So relationships still matter, reputations still matter, doing good work for clients still matter, but what's really changed is that we have these supercomputers in our pockets that give us access to all sorts of information. So again, you get the word-of-mouth referral. What do? You pull your phone out, right? You Google the lawyer's name. You might check to see if this person has mutual connections with you on Facebook. You might actually start your process by going to using what they call dark social or something like Facebook Messenger or WhatsApp or all these different things to actually start the process of, hey, do you know a lawyer that handles this? Again, it's not just starting to think about hiring a lawyer. There might be something that you're watching. Most people when they're dealing with one of these legal services consumer issues that we're talking about, there's something going on in their life that they're focused on, that's causing them trouble. That's why people go to lawyers. And this happens at all different stages throughout a person's day. So they might be watching TV with their smartphone. There might be something that just triggers like, hey, now's a good time for me to start thinking about this stuff. Or they might have questions. So again, the point is that it's even the people that are they're referring you clients, your clients are still going online and looking for information about you. And so you get things like referral, then internet. Again, there's a great link to the study in there. Referrals, then search, right? So got a word-of-mouth referral, looking up the lawyer's name, looking up lawyers that are in my area. Google tells us near me or nearby are really important search queries to start thinking about in terms of getting in front of your legal services consumers. Referral, then Yelp, right? Yelp shows up a lot. People leave reviews on Yelp. Referral, then Facebook, and then Facebook, then referral. So again, there's not, in the past, people think of marketing funnels, and what's happening in this micro moments with these, all of these mobile devices is that the funnel's getting all mashed up because the ways that we communicate now, the barriers between communication are really coming down, and so that gives it gives consumers a variety of ways to find information, to ask questions, to look up evidence of your reputation. And so the key is that it's, like it or not, you can say, I just don't do the internet, but people are expecting that. And so there are some basic things. The good news is that most of this stuff's free. It just takes some time. You gotta know your way around how to navigate things. So another key takeaway from this to remember is that the internet is made of people, right? So when you go to Twitter, yes, there are a lot of bots and there's a lot of spam and all that kind of stuff. But behind those profiles, there are people. So if you go out there and hit people with your TV advertising message on social media, they're not going to follow you, and well, some of them might follow you, engage with you because, for satirical purposes, but most of those people are going to block you, they're going to ignore you, they're going to filter you out. So that's another thing that the internet does, is it allows people to filter out messaging that they don't want. You see it more with ad blockers. Facebook gives you the option to block certain users. And so if you're advertising to these people in the regular stream in a way that they don't like, it's not, the internet isn't going to work for you, right? It's going to be, if you look at it as an advertising vehicle, you're going to draw conclusions that the internet doesn't work for you. So again, the big thing here is to remember that web-based communication technologies are really, really useful for creating, nurturing, and solidifying professional relationships. Personal relationships too, but it makes it much more efficient to stay top of mind. It makes much more efficient to share information, to ask questions, and so that is what I want you to really focus on, is that even though the primary way that people are still going to look for lawyers is word of mouth, the way they go about that process is what's really changing. And so it's from Attorney at Work post, really great post, if I don't say so myself. But the best marketing advice is to be authentic online. So one of the biggest challenges we hear all the time is that, one, I don't have time to do this. Two, it's just really not my personality. And so the thing is that you don't have to spend hours a day on Twitter and think that it's all of a sudden going to start raining clients, but making connections, especially on the local level, people you know in your community. Maybe if you've got kids, you participate in a youth athletic program. We'll talk more about that stuff, but again, I want to frame this conceptually in being authentic, being who you are, having, they talked about this earlier today, which I thought was really great, but having a value and culture in place for your firm, and then communicating online is really what that's about. So ethics first. I had a picture of someone sleeping, but I took it out because the ethics people get upset. So everybody gets bored about ethics, but it's important to understand that ethical obligations apply online just like they do offline. The biggies that you get all the time are these. And so as we all know, each state has their own ethics rules, and so you're bound by the ethics rules and obligations of your state, but Fortunately, the ABA has given us some guidelines that we can work from. So confidentiality of information, client information, it's a no-brainer. Don't post stuff that's going to violate, that doesn't protect your clients. Communication concerning lawyer services, each state there's all sorts of different rules. We're going to get to what they're trying to do. But, advertising, good news is you can actually advertise. Direct contact with prospective clients, so there's rules on solicitation that I'm sure, especially in certain circumstances like big disasters, like you shouldn't be calling people up directly. And then communication is a field of practice specialization, so you can't mislead somebody that you're specialized and expert in a certain field. And again, states vary on this. Very interesting thing happened in Florida. I suggest you look it up to see what happened. I think it gives you a sense of somewhere where the courts might go in the future. But before we get to all of these ethical issues, it's important to remember that this is just my take, right? So I don't sit on any ethics boards. I am not a justice on any state Supreme Court. So, I'm not in charge. And so, again, the ethical rules apply. They're your ethical rules, right? So they're not your web vendors' ethical rules. They're not your marketing people's ethical rules. They're your ethical rules. And I've seen lawyers time and time again that say, my marketer was doing this. Some lawyers do it very well knowing what they're doing. But for the most part, it's a matter of not understanding. And so then what happens is you say, well, I get very confused and the rules are all different. I can't tell what's fair. And so I just don't participate online. I think that's a mistake too. So here are some quick, simple rules, right? Protect your clients. I mean, nothing that you do marketing-wise should ever jeopardize a client confidence, should never put a client in a vulnerable position. I think we can all understand the importance of protecting your clients, and that's really what our core obligation is. Don't lie or mislead, right? So lying is pretty straightforward. It's binary, truth, lie. Misleading gets a little tricky, but again, if you're the best marketing, the best, most effective marketing is being genuine and authentic. So that's the good news, right? You can state factual information, you can be yourself, especially if you're not talking about how good of a lawyer you are, if you're not communicating about your services, if you're socializing online, obviously not violating client confidences, but that's the stuff that works the best because that's the stuff people want to engage with. Sharing local stories, sharing local news stories, sharing good works of your firm. That kind of stuff is great because people are like, wow, this firm's giving back to the community, this firm's taking a leadership role, all those kind of things. And then always remember it's public and permanent. I always hear this, well, it's a chat app, so no one's going to see it. Well, guess what? Everybody can see it. It stays there forever. Even if you delete your tweets, they're coming back to haunt you in the future. So always remember it's public and permanent. But if you focus on those three things, I think you can avoid most of the hot water. Obviously, some states have more particular rules. But hopefully this is a glimpse of the future. This was in the ABA Journal. I think this is something worth keeping your eye on. The shorter part that's relevant is a single rule that prohibits false and misleading communications about the lawyer services. That, to me, covers most of the challenges. I think also, obviously, client confidences is a separate rule that's relevant to this, but I'm hoping that this is the direction we're going in. And again, I encourage you that you don't have to lie and you don't have to mislead people. And in fact, the more effective online marketing is the stuff that is authentic, is genuine, is sharing, stuff that you're doing in the community, and we'll talk about that. If you're really fascinated by, legal ethics and the law and the internet, Josh King from Avo has sociallyawkwardlaw.com. Great resource. Josh pulls together a lot of independent stuff that's going around the country. He's become kind of a lightning rod for this stuff at Avo, so it's good because when something happens, he's on it and has a lot of experience with this stuff, so certainly recommend that as a resource. All right, so now we've talked about conceptually kind of like the bigger picture, word of mouth still matters and all that kind of stuff. And let's talk about how to actually get tactical. So we're going to talk about thinking locally in real life because, again, really what we're going to focus on here is the line between the offline world and the online world is really starting to blur. Localizing websites, organic search, especially local search traffic, considering paid local search marketing. I say consider there because you can get yourself into some really bad investments in AdWords if you don't know what you're doing. Local online social networking, some paid local search advertising, and then one thing you're going to hear if you follow internet marketing in general, one thing that's going to become more and more of a issue is the switch from personalized advertising based on cookies to based on email lists. And so my advice is, and some of this might be like, you might not exactly connect the dots of why this is so important, but if you think about Facebook, Facebook custom audiences, when you're logged into Facebook, they can show you ads because they know you're a user based on the email that you logged in with. So you can do the same, in theory, you're gonna be able to do the same thing in AdWords, you're gonna be able to do the same thing on your own email list, but if I encourage you to run one thing right now is to start to build email lists, not buying lists from people, not renting lists, but actually start getting people that are that contact your firm, people that are clients, other colleagues, getting them on email lists and segmenting them, I think should be a top priority moving into the future. So let's talk about local offline in real life. So the first thing is that you still got to be an outstanding lawyer. A lot of lawyers come to me and say, oh, I've got a lot of bad reviews online. Clients aren't really happy. What can we do about that on the web? And I say, give your clients better service. But and that's often not as easily done as it is said. So I think it's really important, though, that you're kind of like, when you hear that, you say, well, duh, be a better lawyer. But it's not just about outcomes all the time, right? So a lot of people will come to you, they don't even know what a good outcome is. They might have a sense of like, I want to get acquitted, or I want to make I want to get $1 million, or I need to get this bankruptcy thing resolved. But they don't know exactly the details of what an outcome looks like. But what they do know is what it's like to be treated with respect, what it's like to be treated with dignity, what it's like to be responded to, what it's like to feel like you're actually answering their questions. And the other thing is that those kind of testimonials, endorsements, word of mouth, all that kind of stuff, that's the stuff that you want people to be talking about. So, and I'm sure a lot of you will take issue with this, but if someone goes online and says, they always answered my questions, that can be even more valuable than saying, so-and-so got me off on my DUI. And guess what? How likely are they really going to go online and post that this so-and-so got me off on my DUI? They're not. But they might be willing to say, they answered all my questions, they really helped me understand my options, that kind of stuff, which is not outcome specific, but is a great way to kind of encourage people to say praise about you online without actually talking about outcomes. Activity in your local community. This is like one of the biggest underused, in my opinion, opportunities, especially for local lawyers. So, there are local, depending on what kind of practice you're in, of course, but participating with local organizations, local chamber of commerces, local charities, youth sports teams. You do that stuff in the real world. It takes time, like no doubt about it. It's a big time investment, but that's where you're going to build those relationships. That's where you're going to generate a lot of your offline referral network. And guess what else? Those businesses, those organizations, they usually have websites. They're starting more and more to have Facebook pages. And so when they're highlighting you as a participant in their event, their organization, that now you're tapping into that network online. So even if you don't meet everybody at the local community event, because you can't go to every single local community event, if you're participating there, if you're contributing there, if once in a while you talk about an issue that's relevant to that community, they might highlight that on their website. They might link to your website, which has value for search engines, if you know that. We'll get to talk a little about local search in the future, but it also is just great on social media because on their page, they're gonna be talking about you, your participation, your good works, and those are the kinds of things that people say, wow, this is, when they run into that issue, oh, that's right, so-and-so does this, and so you're staying top of mind on a more regular basis. So local charity events, taking on a leadership role, when you get involved with like legal leadership, I think that's great. But there are a lot of non-legal organizations that you can take leadership roles in that might be, something that's tangentially relevant to what you do. So, for example, if a lot of your people are a lot of your clients are overcoming injury issues, maybe you participate at a rehabilitation center or something like that. Maybe you have a scholarship, maybe you do sponsorship and that kind of thing. I'm meeting local business owners. So, just like we saw at the beginning, one of the places that people always go to get more, get word of mouth referrals is employers and other business professionals. And so meeting more local business professionals, especially those aren't competitors directly to you, is a really great way to expand that word of mouth. And again, on a local level online, it's the same type of thing. You can get people, people will say, they'll see those connections, like, oh yeah, so-and-so lawyer is also very active with so-and-so business. I know and trust this business. I'm more likely to go and use this lawyer. They might go directly to the business owner. Who do you recommend? That kind of thing. And then local meetups. So local meetups, these can be really, really powerful. I know a lot of lawyers that work in motor vehicle, they'll become registered car accident safety installers, and so they'll have people, you gotta talk to your insurance company, all that kind of stuff, but they'll have people come in and actually do car seat installations, talk about car safety danger, and that's great information. And guess what? People walk away with, maybe they walk away with a little guide on car accident safety, car seat safety, to take that back home. Again, when there's a car accident or somebody that they know is in a car accident, you're gonna be top of mind. And so again, it's this offline stuff really blurs with online, and so it's important not to forget that offline matters. All right, let's talk about some nitty-gritty localizing websites. So the first thing I will tell you for local that you can do on your website is make sure that you have a consistent business name, address, and local phone number on your website. I like to put it in the footer, but at very least put it on a contact page. If you have multiple offices, make sure that all those addresses and unique phone numbers are on those pages. Schema markup, again, I'm not gonna be able to teach you everything there is to know about this stuff, but this is good stuff to go back and learn more about. Schema markup, again, is one of those future-proofing your website. Certainly local business, I think using attorney and review schema. So if you ever see sites like Yelp and Avo and lawyers.com, we'll show some examples of this coming up, but if you put schema markup on your pages as well, especially pages like if you had a page that's like, client endorsements, if that's allowed in your state, put that schema on there and you'll get stars under your listings. And so again, those jump off the page. They reinforce to people that are looking you up online that, hey, this person's clients are really happy with work they've done in the past. Local web pages and posts. So, people talk a lot about blogging and practice area pages and all this kind of stuff. But one of the most overlooked things is hyper-local posts and pages. So if you serve people in a local community, people know the street names, the zip codes, intersections, parks. And so when people are searching, the good news is that these tend to be a lot less competitive in search results. So if you cover some kind of like local event that happens and you talk about where it is and it's in this park or it's at this intersection or it's a parade, all these local events, you will pick up search traffic. You get people to your site and you might say, well, that's not really targeted, but that's the kind of second half of the equation is what are you going to give them when they get there? But getting in front of these people, getting people to engage with your website from search, local pages and posts with really hyper-local titles like a park, especially in communities that aren't maybe as big as Chicago, this is a really, really effective way to do it. Local links, we talked about this, so putting resources, people look things up like maybe they look up a local courthouse, including local links on your website. A lot of people get really afraid of linking out because the search engine people have convinced a lot of people that linking out from your website is like this really horrible thing for your Google juice. Not true. I would say put relevant local resources. Don't create a page of every court, every federal court, every possible thing you can think is related as a list as a resource page, but key local links to your local police station or your local courthouse or some local businesses that are relevant, I think is something to consider. And same thing with local photography. So it is another big opportunity. If you don't, as much as you can, there are times and places to use stock images, but if you can actually go out and hire a photographer to go take pictures of your area, take pictures of your office, you want to think about what impression that's going to leave on consumers, but the local photography really is effective to give that personalized, like, hey, I recognize that place. Oh, this person's right down the street from me. I didn't even realize that. There's a psychological effect to using the actual real local photography. And then this is a really good one. There's a guy from Google, I won't bore you with all the details, but Google usually plays their hand pretty close to their vest, but local user-generated content. So things like comments. Now, it's tough to get people to comment, right? Especially if you're writing about legal stuff. It's a very small audience that wants to talk about recent legislative changes and such that pertain to your practice. But if you focus on some of this local content, so you're talking about things like, I don't know, a county fair or whatever is relevant to your local community, you can get people to comment, and their language, what they use on your site when they're submitting this user-generated content, Google sucks that stuff up too, and so it can help you appear for a bunch of other local queries that you might not even thought about. So teasing that out through comments, teasing that out through some lawyers are adding forums, so like question and answer forums to their site. Again, there's some ethical issues there. You certainly don't want to be giving, in my opinion, specific legal advice, especially in necessarily your forum, but if people are having conversations there, again, that's really good information that you can actually see what the kind of keywords and terms that people are using in your local space, and then you can write content on your site for that. So the more ways you can find to have people generate content on your sites, whether that's commenting, forum posts, there's a few other ways, but those are the ones that I think are the most relevant to think about right off the bat. All right, organic local search. So for all these people that are turning directly to their devices and going to Google and either searching for a name or searching for some kind of city plus practice area plus lawyer, which you might be surprised how little search there is for that stuff versus like broader legal research kind of questions, so keep that in mind. The key to this is to start with Google My Business, okay? So Google My Business has gone through a variety of iterations, been like Google Local and all this different kind of stuff, but if you go to Google My Business, it's google.com/business. If you just search Google My Business, it'll come up. That's the starting point. You've got to make sure that you've got your profile filled out there. They've got some steps there how to do that. That's the starting point. Getting these hyperlocal links, so again, if you've got other small local businesses that can link to you, so not your site to their site, but their site to your site, really, really important. Schools, really, really valuable. If you think about it, that's kind of what Google's doing, right? So schools are actually like a staple of the community. They're not not in all cases, for-profit institutions. And so if you're participating with an elementary school, if you're participating with a local high school, and they do a press release on their site that says, hey, so-and-so came and spoke, or so-and-so hosted this event, or so-and-so is a big contributor to our local team here, those links from those sites to your site are really, really effective to help you appear locally. Earning local citations, so that's basically mentions. I think this is like kind of the PR thing to think about. So if you can get interviewed in a local newspaper, even if they don't link to you, those mentions of your name, those mentions of your firm name are valuable in terms of local search. So I'm a proud contributor to the Moz Local Search Ranking Factors survey. There's a bunch of people that do local search, and they come together once a year and talk about what they've seen the past year. It's a great resource to kind of get a sense. There's a lot of factors that go into it. I try to highlight some of the more important ones here. But anyway, it's another great place to really learn a lot more about local search from a company that has, Moz has been around a long time. They really know what they're talking about, and some good information there. All right, so here's an example of a very smart law firm that is taking advantage of helping clients sing their praises online. But the thing that I want to show you here is, so the Google My Business listing is the little gray pin, and then that's also generating that very nice knowledge panel on the right-hand side. So again, you can see that giving the searchers a much different experience than if it's just the firm's name, or if it says Chicago Personal Injury Lawyer in the title. Not nearly as rich of an experience for the consumer to encourage them. You see site links, things like scholarship, those types of things really resonate with people. I think that's a great example. And then, of course, you've got Yelp, Avvo, Facebook, lawyers.com. Each one of those sites includes that schema on it. So, again, now you've got multiple third-party validation for when people are, they get your name, they get your firm's name, they're seeing, hey, this firm is doing right by clients. Clients are really happy with the experience they're receiving there. That's going to motivate people to call. So again, I don't just focus on your site. Make sure you're thinking about some of these other sites that contribute. And getting your citations consistent, so your name, address, phone consistent on all those different sites, makes a big difference for how you appear in those local search results as well. Paid local search. So again, I'm going to reiterate, paid local search is not for everyone. It's very important to keep that in mind. But if you're going to use AdWords, you're going to use some kind of local search, focus on super hyper local advertising. So don't bid on lawyers across your entire state. It's going to kill you, okay? If you focus on, though, something super specific, maybe you do it county-wide, or you start in a zip code to test, you're not trying to be ranked number one for every keyword. They showed those expensive keywords from AdWords. That's because lawyers with a lot of money are just bidding each other up. It's just lawyer after lawyer that is just, I want to be number one, right? You don't have to do that, though. Don't focus on, position shouldn't be your major criteria for focusing on your local search efforts. Measure from the click, to a phone call to actually your CRM, and does that become a case fee? And you'll see you can spend very much more small budgets, but you've got to be much more scalpel than broadsword. Use hyperlocal ad copy. So again, same thing we talked about with blog posts. Put hyperlocal ad copy in your AdWords ads. So things like, we're around the corner from. The call-out extensions are great for that. Location extensions are really important because Google is now allowing us to include, so if you get reviews on your Google My Business page, you'll actually show reviews in your AdWords ads. So now you've actually taken, hey, I'm getting those testimonials from people searching for me, and you're applying them to searches for things like criminal defense lawyer, bankruptcy lawyer, and they're seeing all those nice reviews. The more rich you can make your ads in AdWords, the more effective they are. So the more, a lot of people will say, okay, bid on a keyword, here's my ad copy, URL to my landing page. They're missing these things like location extensions, call extensions. Again, a lot of people, they see that validation in your ad with all those reviews. They're going to click your call extension without even getting to your website. In fact, we've seen campaigns where like 86% or so of the click-through rate has gone to the ad extension versus going to the landing page. Means they're calling right from the search result. Hyperlocal audience targeting. So this is something that's coming in the future. Keep in mind that Google is moving in the same direction as Facebook. They're going to allow you to say, you can show ads to people who you have on email lists. And that's a very powerful distinction because now you're not showing ads to everybody. You're showing ads to people who are either already engaged with you or have already come to your site looking for something at some point, have downloaded a guide, were a client in the past. This is a really good way to stay in touch with existing clients. And call-out extensions, again, use that hyperlocal stuff. Local social networking. So this is kind of some of the obvious stuff that, again, people, you see Twitter with people, dollar signs and free consultations. Connect with people you know in real life, right? Like that's where this power really comes from. So a lot of lawyers are reluctant to use Facebook personally. If I can't make that decision for you, and I don't know if it's right for you, but the most effective use of Facebook is when you are participating as you. It's fine to have a Facebook law firm page if you want one, but you're going to see, though, and you can quantify this with Facebook Insights, but people much rather connect with you, like the stuff that you like the stuff that you're sharing, comment on stuff that you're sharing than if your law firm is sharing it. Now, there are some clever ways and creative ways you can take your Facebook page and share it share posts from your law firm Facebook page as you. And so now you're connecting like, hey, it's me sharing my business information. That's a way to motivate people to go connect with your page. But if you think that you're going to create a Facebook page and start writing stuff on legal stuff and people are going to flock to your Facebook page, it's not going to happen. They're not interested. So keep it social, connect with people you know in real life, interact with those local businesses. So the same, we talked about the real life stuff. Well, when they foster or they're sponsoring an event, help them build publicity for that event through your Facebook stuff because they'll appreciate that, right? It's kind of like, hey, I'm a participant here in this event. I'm very proud to be working with this organization. I'm going to highlight some of their good stuff on Facebook as well, and then people psychologically make those connections. Oh yeah, they know this business. They were at that event. Oh, that's right, I met him. I'm going to follow him. I'm going to friend request him or her, that kind of thing. Local charities, local organizations, same type of thing. Find these organizations and these charities and schools on their start with Facebook. If you need one, Facebook's got the users. You can get into Twitter and LinkedIn and all these other sites. But if you're really like, look, I got some limited time here, I'm going to try this stuff. Start with Facebook. Start connecting with people that you actually know. Again, this might sound boring, but it should be obvious to you. Don't post your clients' information and what you're doing for them on Facebook, right? And you don't even need to mislead people, right? You're talking about local events you're participating in. Where's the misleading there? Youth programs in sports we found to be really effective. More and more youth programs in sports now because everybody's getting a website, everybody's getting a social media handle / page or whatever. Go find those sites, start engaging with them online. Again, if you're doing as little as 10 minutes a day, it's a good start. Paid local social media, same type of thing. Now, the positive thing is that clicks on social media, so clicks on Facebook, clicks on Twitter, impressions on LinkedIn, are a lot less expensive than AdWords. Yay! However, remember that AdWords people have in search intent, so that means they're going to look for something, right? Social media is passive. It's more like watching TV, because what are you doing on social media? You're like, oh, my friend's kids, person I know from high school, local events going on, some news stuff. some weird stuff on Facebook. So the difference is that it's a passive advertising medium. So don't expect the same kind of results. Don't expect the same kind of cost per acquisition for a client. Clicks are cheaper, but if you're going to do something paid, I'd focus on boosting content, especially if it's hyper-local content. So if you participate in a, call it a local walk for some kind of organization, and you're there and you're doing it, boost that, because Facebook has to make money too. And so they've actually really scaled back the organic reach. So when you post something on Facebook, if you look at insights, you'll see, oh, it reached 6 people. However, if you boost that post to a targeted audience, say a particular zip code where that event took place, or you boost it to an audience of, oh, hey, people that actually participate, you go to the group organizers and you say, hey, do you have a list of participants that I can use? Okay, now that's super hyper local relevant social media advertising. Of course, those people were there at the event. They love it. They're going to be like, I like this. Oh yeah, I saw so-and-so there. What a great cause. Share the post. And now you're going to get that viral effect that you really want in terms of building awareness. Again, don't think of social media advertising as direct response. It's not the same thing as like, oh, I put a tracking number on a billboard and now I want to get people calling me for a free consultation. Think of it much more as building that network, building those relationships that you would in the real world, but now you can do it without actually having to go to the event every week, right? You can stay in touch with those people online. It's much more efficient and you gain much more access. So we talked a little bit about Moz. Moz Local, again, this is a very brief kind of shotgun throwing a lot at you. Moz Local has great resources for local. Full disclaimer, I'm a contributor there, proud of my relationship with Moz, but there's tons of great information there. They also have a tool for checking things like your citation consistency. Some more tools, Yext is enough. So we typically will do something combination of Moz Local and Yext. Yext has got some great resources too. That pink flag with the target, that's Whitespark. That's Darren Shaw. He's in Edmonton. Really great resources there, really great tools for local search marketing. If you've never checked out Whitespark, Ahrefs, more backlinks. They're doing some more things with local and social, but I want to give you this stuff so that you can start to go investigate it. But I know some people are thinking, hey, how do you get this linked data stuff? Go to these sites. They can explain it a lot better than I can in the remaining 5 minutes. The frog is Screaming Frog, so that's really good for checking like technical problems with your site. It crawls your site. It'll tell you like, hey, you've got missing title tags, or you've got missing meta descriptions, or you've got duplicate pages, like a lot of that stuff that Google wants you to try to figure out. And then here's an interesting new tool. Dan Weeks is actually here. I don't know if Dan's in here, but talk to Dan Weeks, Lawyer Marketing Score. He's trying to build a tool that does some competitive local analysis of websites. It's very, very beta, so if you go there and you're like, this doesn't seem to be working, don't blame me. But I think it's something to actually look into for getting a sense of like where you stand amongst some of the competitor sites. So check that out, and thank you very much. That's it. I went really fast, but I know I threw a lot, and so I wanted to ask any questions that you might have about anything that we talked about here. If there's specific issues you're facing, if you're not comfortable sharing in the group, like I said, I'll go up to the Q&A room. I know that there's a lot there, but if you take away anything from this, I think that the key is remember that word of mouth and reputation and doing right by clients is still the number one thing, right? It's the most important thing. It's always going to be the most important thing as long as, Deep Blue doesn't take over. But the ways that those people are sharing that information, the way that they're making those word of mouth referrals, the way that they're talking about you, that is changing, right? It's not just the people sitting around coffee tables talking about this stuff anymore. People are going online. They expect to see information about you. They expect to be able to see your clients speaking happy about you. And so you can't really ignore this stuff, because you'll never know how many people you were referred to that decided not to call you because they couldn't find out what they wanted to know about you. And so that's why I think it's really important to take a look at this stuff. So thank you all very much for attending. Julie.
There's a new app called People.
Mm-hmm.
It's being described as Yelp.
For people, yeah.
So I'm just wondering what your opinion is on this.
Yeah, so People, so the question was, what is my opinion of People? People is an app that's been described as the Yelp for people. It's received a lot of criticism. If you think about it, you're basically like reviewing people you know for anything. I'm not pushing People very hard. yet. And I'll be honest, as though I'm like maybe like an early adopter and like knowing about things, I'm slower to like let things play out. And is there a chance that I think people could be something? Perhaps. I think from a social listening standpoint, so if you're worried that people might be going on people and like saying nasty things about you, maybe you look into setting up something to monitor that. But I certainly wouldn't recommend you go out and start reviewing people on people right now. I don't think it's a top priority. I think if you're talking about I think Yelp should be a top priority, but primarily because Yelp has really high visibility for legal search terms. There are a handful of so every time when we look at lawyers' web presence, we start building this whole picture of like how their particular segment might look for them. So we'll do things like, okay, here in this particular city, this is the way people might be searching for you. Here are some of the sites that come up for those keywords. Places like Yelp, Thumbtack, Find Laws Directory, Lawyers.com, Avvo. Those are all usually some of the bigger players. Now, some of those places like Yelp, you can claim your listing for free. And again, I think if anything else, it's good for defense because if you claim your profile, you want to control the entire SERP for your name, your firm's name. So certainly claiming the free listing on Yelp, in states where it's allowed, encourage happy clients to go to Yelp to say nice things about you. But people and some of these other like real cutting edge ones, I tend to wait a little bit just because I don't know how it's going to play out.
Yeah, I guess my question was, are you concerned at all that
Yes.
that's going to kind of negate all of the other goodwill that, is being written about attorneys? Here you have this new app that's getting a lot of pushback
Right.
because it potentially could destroy all of the other good stuff.
Yeah, that's always an issue, right? So it takes 100 great testimonials to build up. It takes time. It takes a lot of hard work. It only takes one to really shoot that down. So I think it's worth keeping your eye on. But right now, and I haven't looked at the latest like user stats, but you're not going to see a lot of. So far, we haven't seen people show up in a lot of search results. I would guess that most of your potential clients don't even know about this until they're like really into it. But look, keep your eye on it. And you can set up things like Google Alerts. Moz has a tool for social listening, but you can listen, so when something that includes your name plus attorney or lawyer, if you have a very popular, if you're Justin Bieber attorney at law, make sure you include that attorney. But you can set up listening tools to see when someone posts something about you online that you get a notification. It's like, oh, hey, someone wrote a testimonial about you, or someone wrote a blog post about you. I think those are good things, and same thing for people. Yep.
Speaking to what Julie mentioned, I was just reading an article in the New Yorker about Reid Hoffman, the founder of LinkedIn, and he's aiming to do something along those lines too.
Yes. LinkedIn company pages used to have the review this business feature. They actually apparently retired it because I was like, why don't you guys have this? Because everybody else seems to have it. And again, you're losing click share for business queries to these other sites. So that's great to hear. I didn't know that they were actually thinking about bringing that back.
There's a long article in the recent New Yorker kind of about Reid Hoffman. It's very interesting, and there was mention of that.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And again, people's attention spans, especially online, are really short. So things like reviews with stars, they jump right off the page. Video snippets jump right off the page. If you connect your Google My Business page and you get your address and your phone number and those knowledge boxes and knowledge graph, which I didn't really focus on today because I don't think it's as, people will maybe debate this, but I don't think it's as relevant for local search, especially right now if you're getting started. But where Google's going is to be able to answer questions directly. And so if you put information on your site that speaks to those questions and your site becomes an authority for that, you can, you're kind of like Wikipedia, not the same necessarily authority, but authority in a very specific area, whether it's location or practice area. You can get those knowledge box. I've seen lawyers get it. You can get these knowledge box results, which really compel people from the search engines to click through and learn more about you. So, yeah, the biggest things I can say to you are to really get involved locally. I know it takes time, but it's time and money, right? So you can either go and spend a lot of money on doing advertising to grow awareness, or you can take the organic route. Organic takes time, right? Developing a reputation takes time. Getting happy clients. But the good thing is that if you can do that, it's a huge competitive advantage because, although there are some lawyers that are faking their testimonials online, which is a big no-no, and as far as I'm concerned, like that's the one thing the state bar should be actually regulating. That's stuff that your competitors can't fake, right? They can't, your competitors that aren't doing as good of a job with you, that aren't getting the same kind of, providing the same kind of service and motivating those people to go online to sing praises about you, that's stuff that you can't fake. You can't make that stuff up. Participating in charity events, taking a leadership position in your local area, taking a leadership position on legislative things. A lot of lawyers, it depends on who your clients are, but if you're serving the local public, taking a stand on a legislative thing that you don't agree with is a great thing. People will support you. People will help share that stuff. They want to. You should be a leader in your community on that stuff. You're the lawyer. You're the knowledgeable person about this stuff. Yep.
In regard to the reviews, is there any tool or anything where if someone wanted to give you a review, they could give you that review in more than one spot, or they have to go to each one of the
Yep.
And second, well, how do you rank which ones you rank the most important?
Great questions.
How many do you need?
Great questions. So if you're brand new, start with Google My Business, right? So get 5 there, because you need 5 to actually trigger the, they've actually, Google's always testing things. So right now, Google's actually not showing Google My Places reviews. In fact, I could probably go, well, I'm running a lot of time. They're not showing them right in the search result, but they're showing them in the knowledge panel on the side. They used to show them right in the result. So I'd say Google My Business is number 1, get 5 there. Then I would say this, go search on your name and your firm name and local queries and see which sites come up, right? And then prioritize like that. So if, search for my name, if I search on Gyi Tsakalakis and you see a Facebook page and you see a Yelp listing and you see Avo, go focus on those first, because those are the ones that are highly visible. People still use Google, even though people say Google's dying and all that kind of thing. People love Google, they're still going there, and so focus on the ones that are highly visible. Tools, there's a Mike Blumenthal, really smart local guy, is a co-founder of this thing called Get 5 Stars. That's a pretty good tool. There's, I think it's called refer.us. I can look that up and get you that, but if you look at if you look at tools to for testimonials or testimonial software and that kind of thing, you'll get a sense. There's a lot of these things, but the ones I like, Get 5 Stars, I think it's refer.us, but the key is this. You want to be able to give people the options, but the more that it feels to them like it's an automated process, the less likely they are to actually leave the review. And so the best case scenario is that when you just settle the matter, or you're giving, whether you're handing someone a check or you're closing their file, that's the time when they're like, thank you so much, what can I do? To say, what could really help me is if you could head over to this site and leave me, say some nice words. Either shoot them an email with a link in it, or some people, if you have clients who are not very savvy on the web, just give them a card with instructions of how to do it, because you do get fall off with these tools. The nice thing about the tools is very automated. You can have email templates and yada, 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 but you start to lose some of that authenticity with you're reviewing me versus hey, it's my firm that's behind this software. So I'm not saying that the software doesn't work, it does. I just think the implementation really matters. It's the same thing with all this stuff. How you do it matters so much. And so many times I have lawyers that say, oh, that doesn't work. Well, it's like this because of X, Y, and Z. So,
True that if you had an iPad in your office,
yeah.
you could do it right there.
So Google doesn't like that. I've seen lawyers do it and it's worked. If you're going to, so what he's suggesting is that you have an iPad in your office, and when your clients are there and they're happy, you just say, hey, here's the iPad, you got the site loaded up, they just log in and leave the review. So I've seen lawyers do that, I've seen it work. The risk is that as these platforms become more sophisticated, they start identifying things like you're connected to the firm's network. And that makes it look like maybe it's artificial. And so I don't think it's artificial. I mean, the clients there, it makes the most sense that would be, but I didn't invent Google, unfortunately. So those reviews can get filtered if you do that. So if you're going to do that, I'd certainly recommend you use a 3G connection, like not Wi-Fi. Don't use your company's Wi-Fi. Try not to use a company account because they can identify that. Ideally, they do it from their own device, but I have seen that work. The risk is that your reviews get filtered. Google and Yelp have the 2 of the most aggressive filters. So maybe you send people to your lawyers.com listing or something through that. But mix it up. Get, I think, 5 and then move on. But you also might round robin just based on which sites show up in the results for your name. Yep.
What about responding to negative reviews that are patently,
Great question. So a lot of layers to this. I could do a whole presentation on just responding to negative reviews. But this is what I'll say. Number 1 is, so you're a divorce lawyer, and the opposing party, your client's ex-spouse, is leaving bad reviews about you online. Go to the site and say, this person never used my services. Most of the, that's a condition for most of the major sites. So sites like Avo, sites like Yelp, if you can show that, hey, this was never my client, they do their investigation, they'll just remove it. If it is your client and they actually they're unhappy for whatever reason, we know clients can be unhappy for many reasons, even when you do a great job. Don't respond right away, right? Take some time, cool off. Remember, even though they're unhappy, they were still your client, right? And you still have an obligation to protect their, confidential information, privacy, all that kind of stuff. So don't ever, that should be your number one bar. If you could, usually what I will say is, I'm really sorry that you feel this way. If you give me a call, I'd like to talk it out with you. You got to pick your battles there, though, right? Some clients, no matter what you say, it's not going to go well. Leave those clients alone. But if if it's somebody that you have a relationship with and they just feel like, something just went wrong, the best thing you can do is to say, you know what, I'm listening to you. I'm really sorry you feel this way. Maybe perhaps we can, work it out. But don't go online and start calling your clients crazy and that kind of stuff, right? That's not a good policy. It's in most states, it's probably going to get you into some kind of ethics hot water. Just don't do it. But if it's not your client, you're entitled to go out there and say, look, this is violating the site's terms of service. Usually they'll take them down. Sir. Yes, LinkedIn does have sponsored content. So on Facebook, it's called boosted posts. And so you just post something on Facebook, and you can actually set up an advertising campaign to give the post more visibility. So it works really well when it's, in the context of local especially. If you are, let's say you did a 5K for a local charity, if you boost that kind of post to a very local audience, especially if ideally you have like a tailored audience that's other people that like the organization's page, say, you're going to get it in front of them. And so they're eager to, they participated in that event, that cause meant something to them. They're more likely to reshare that boosted post. Because you got to remember, maybe this is a better context, not every post that is posted by someone you're connected with on Facebook shows in your feed, right? Facebook chooses algorithmically what post to show in your feed. And so if you post something on Facebook, there's a good chance that a lot of people that might have cared about that post won't see it. Boosted posts is Facebook's way of saying, look, we take it organically, we give you back paid, but they're cheap, and the boost can be, less than $100, 20, but you could spend $20, boost the post, but if you boost it to a really targeted audience, people that actually would care about that, so maybe you boost it to people who like the page of the organization that put on the event, or maybe you have an email list and you build a custom audience in Facebook and just boost that content to them. But the key is that you're boosting the content that you're participating in. So maybe there's a picture of you running the 5K with other people at your firm or something. That stuff is going to get liked and shared, which is going to get it in front of more people. You just got to pay for it. So that's kind of the difference. You can. So the major rule that Google has is that it's got to be, I think, less than 20% text. So you can't be like free consultation, phone number, boost that. Personally, that stuff works a lot less effectively than boosting for some kind of event or social thing, right? Because you got to remember, if you think of Facebook just like the new TV, remember what it takes on TV. You've got to spend a lot of money. You've got to get in front of a lot of eyeballs to get a direct response. It's even worse on Facebook, because now on Facebook what they can do is, and Facebook Insights will show you this, you can see people that said, hide from my feed. And so there's a balance between, I want to get the eyeballs, but you also don't want people to start hiding your stuff from their feed, because now all that free organic stuff and all that good stuff you're doing over here is being filtered because of what your ad is over here. So if you're going to do a direct response type of thing, I still think content focused. So download this guide, download these tips. If you're like, DUI lawyer, free consultation, you're going to, more likely than not, you're going to see more filters than you're going to see people wanting to engage with that, in my opinion. Now, there's certainly exceptions to this. If you build a custom audience, if you are able to build an audience that really is really targeted so that you're not just showing it to everybody. Direct response can work, but I really want you to impress upon you that it's going to be more like TV advertising than it is like search advertising. You know, I think people make the mistake to think, oh, well, Facebook's online, it's going to be like AdWords. AdWords has intent. That's why Google's doing $15 billion a quarter, right? People are going there looking for that. Facebook, people are cat pictures, and then they've got ads over here, and so it's much more passive. It's more interruptive. And so I think there's more to be gained, more benefit. You know, if you do cost benefit, there's more to be gained by the organic and boosting things that people are interested in. Now, that's not to say you can get kind of creative, because you can do a very relevant boost that's not quite direct response, but makes it very clear what you do and the types of legal situations you help with. So, I don't know why I'm stuck on this DUI thing, but maybe you do like, I know there's one lawyer that's doing these like DUI kits. And so if you boost something like that, now you might get some people that are like, oh, this is terrible because this person's helping people who are breaking the law. But the point is, people are going to more engage with something like that than if you're just like, hey, Gyi Tsakalakis, attorney at law, I do drunk driving defense, because that's the kind of thing, that's an ad, right? That's like a classic direct response ad, and people can filter that stuff. So I'm not saying it never works, because it does sometimes, but 80-20, I would do 80 organic, boost good stuff you're doing in the community, boost if you do a scholarship, or you're working with a local charity, or you're putting on a seminar, or you're taking a leadership position at an organization. Boost that kind of stuff, because you'd be surprised. People are like, they want to help support you. The people they're like, oh, this is great that so-and-so's doing this, that they're being a leader in their field, they're taking a position on this, leader in their community. That's the stuff they want to share, and that's really the point, right? The more that you get people to share what you're doing, now you're tapping into networks that you didn't have before, because people that don't necessarily like your page or aren't friends with you on Facebook are getting exposed to what you're doing. And if they start liking it, if they start following your page, if they connect with you, if they start coming to the events that you're participating in, it's going to really help that word of mouth. And that's really kind of the whole point of all this is, it's the blurring of the lines. So the real world and the internet are really getting blurred, and you don't want to forget about what's going on in the real world, because it can really have an impact on what's going on online. That it? Thank you again very much. Much appreciated. I'll be upstairs if you have other questions.